It's a new week here on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for starting your week with us. For the next 2 hours, as always, we have the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria and maybe in other parts of the continent. Welcome to Breakfast Central once again. I am Osaogi Ogbon.
And I'm Joe Hansen, welcoming you to a bright and beautiful start to a new working week. And most importantly, how every Nigerian is feeling this morning. I think it's good to ask Osaogi how you're feeling this morning, looking at the scoreline from a few hours back yesterday.
Mostly indifferent, and I didn't even get to watch the game because I didn't want to be. So I'll be honest, and it's not, I don't know if it sounds unpatriotic, but I didn't expect that we would win, So right from yesterday evening, I already told myself I wasn't going to watch it. I expected that we would not win. And so, mentally and emotionally, I was disconnected from the whole thing, When we scored at first, I was happy. I said, okay, not bad. But then as the game progressed, I was, reading people's tweets and seeing that it wasn't looking very good. So it wasn't shocking for me, and I'd accepted it, hours even before the game took place. So, but for me, there's still, I think getting to the final alone was a win. And like everybody has said, who wants that Bangolo trophy in the first place?
Oh, well.
Somebody called it Iron Condemn.
Ademola Adenuga joins us as well. Good morning to you, Ademola. How are you feeling, by the way, this morning? Let's find out as well.
Good morning, Joe and Osaogi. Well, I don't feel too great. I was looking out for Nigeria, winning, this final. I was hoping we'd bring home the trophy. But it's been a tough fight. They made a good run, having, them equalize. I mean, it was heartbreaking, but then we've learned to eat an elephant, one at a time. Hopefully, the next AFCON 2025, Nigeria will bring home the trophy. But yeah, I'm not feeling too great. I was hoping and wishing we brought home the trophy. But hey, better luck next time.
But let's be honest. In the last 6 months or 8 months, did anybody really expect that we'll make it to the finals? If we're being honest.
No.
If we've watched the Super Eagles play in the last 2 years, nobody expected that we're going to make it to the finals. So we started a little rough, and then it got better, and we started winning games, and next thing we're in the finals. So for me, I think we had a great run. What's really hurtful mostly is because we made so much mouth, and we created a lot of enemies across the continent, from Ghana to Cameroon to South Africa, everywhere. So that's the thing. We just couldn't end the tournament with that same bragging rights. To laugh at Ghana again, laugh at South Africa again. That's really, what hurts Nigerians. But I don't think that we really, except, I'm completely wrong, and it's fine if I am. I don't think a lot of people were like, oh, go Super Eagles, we're definitely winning it. Nah.
Well, I agree with you. Yes, we may not have been playing well so far, but then, Super Eagles kept winning each game. If you say by luck, by chance, whatever, by providence, whatever, we kept winning. And their winning kept on inching them closer to our hearts. I mean, and then when you have a team winning each game, I mean, you expect the best for them. I think that was the case with the Super Eagles. They kept winning each of the, the games they had. And the more they won, it got people much more interested in watching the game. And then,
I give it to them, and I give them all the credit for getting that far, 100%. I wasn't expecting it, and so I'm excited that we even got that far. Got to the finals. Nothing else matters. Getting to the finals and then, of course, win the trophy. Aside that, nothing else matters. But I think there's also time for us to, now, move away from the distraction that football causes and focus on fixing Nigeria. Where, of course, our realities must also, of course, they remain. We're going to go back to what our realities are. The dollar is 1,500-ish. Electricity, of course, I wasn't power the whole of the game yesterday. The light came back around 11 p.m. We still have terrible economic challenges, security, bandits, and kidnappers still running around the country. So let's welcome the boys back home, and of course welcome ourselves back to reality also.
Anyway, I think we said it all, most importantly. But the Super Eagles, the coach, Jose Pesero, and of course all who supported, I think we should be proud of ourselves. It was indeed a good outing. Like Osaogi rightly said, 8 months ago, I would even say 3 months ago, in short, a month before the AFCON started. A lot of people said, Nigeria? Really? And when they started with the hashtag, let's do it again, everybody was like, do what again? Really do what again? It wasn't until we got to the quarterfinals and then to the semis that people started saying, okay, maybe let's do it again. And I think it was good. But then again, over the weekend, aside from the Super Eagles encounter with, of course, the host nation, Ivory Coast, the sad story did hit us. And to me, it's still like a shock, the death of the amazing, very, very hard working, and we could say one of the smartest and very industrious banker that Africa and Nigeria has indeed had the privilege of having, died in a tragic helicopter crash. Still unbelievable, still looks very, very weird and unbelievable up until today. Herbert Wigwe had to go that way alongside his wife, his son, and of course the well-respected former president of the NGX as well. Very, very sad situation. I don't know how you guys felt when you got this story. For me, it was mixed reactions. I kept saying, no, it can't be true, you know.
Well, it's quite, depressing. The chief executive chairman for Access Bank, dying in such ill-fated crash alongside his wife and his son. All of them dead. I mean, it's quite disheartening. Investigations are still ongoing as to what caused this crash. I'm hoping, the whole of Access Bank, his associates, his family members, his friends, all have the fortitude to bear the loss. And then it's a reminder to all of us that, let's learn to number our days, take each moment as it comes, and then, just try to live a good life. We're praying for the loved ones of the departed, for them to have the heart to grieve his loss.
Very true. The country was mourning, all weekend.
Yeah.
I think the news broke on Saturday evening, I believe.
Yeah, Saturday evening.
And the country was mourning most of Saturday and, of course, the whole of Sunday. I'm sure it will continue today. He was an icon. He and a few others basically built a financial institution of a certain class of financial institutions that we currently are enjoying today. They were some of the best brains and the best minds in Nigeria's financial sector generally. So we lost, the country, the continent, and maybe even the world lost an icon, So, but of course, we wouldn't feel that pain as much as his closest family, members will feel the pain. So, our prayers to them, and we hope that they're able to, as quickly as possible, heal. And of course, God will guide them all through. But we will talk a little bit more on Herbert Wigwe sometime during the show this morning. Let's quickly share with our viewers what our top stories are this Monday morning on Breakfast Central.
AFCON 2023, Côte d'Ivoire crowned African champions. Nigeria takes second place.
Congratulations to them. And of course, President Tinubu calls for intense fight against insecurity.
We'll also take a look at Nigeria's 1 billion naira committee. Find out what they are up against and what they are planning to do.
Exactly. And of course, advocates campaign against breast ironing practice.
Very deep one. Then we have the front pages of the newspapers as well coming up this morning, where you can be part of it by calling. Stay with us. Breakfast Central continues.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adediba. We begin the news with the update on the crash that killed the Group Chief Executive Officer of Access Holdings PLC, Herbert Wigwe. On board the ill-fated aircraft late Friday, were Wigwe, his wife, son, a former group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group, Abimbola Ogumbanjo, as well as 2 crew members.
Details about the accident include: the crew consisted of a pilot in command and a safety pilot. The accident flight was operated by Orbic Air LLC as a Part 135 charter flight. Witness reports of the weather conditions at the time of the accident suggest rain and a wintry mix. The helicopter was not equipped with a cockpit voice recorder or a flight data recorder. This helicopter was not required to be equipped with those type of recording devices. We are aware of media reports of some downed power lines near the accident site. We will be looking into this report during our on-scene investigations.
Away from that, the Nigerian government has responded to threats issued by the organized labor to declare a nationwide strike in the next 2 weeks. The government said that it has so far demonstrated good faith in implementing the agreement it had with the workers that are cushioning the hardship from fuel subsidy removal. And to politics. Ahead of the Edo State primary election slated for February 17, the All Progressive Congress, APC, has cleared all 12 aspirants jostling for its ticket to contest September 22nd governorship election. 12 aspirants had purchased and returned their duly completed forms sold at 50 million naira each. The Nigerian Navy ship NNS Pathfinder has uncovered 15 illegal refining camps made up of 6 refineries each, with the capacity to refine 2.7 million liters of crude oil in Bobokiri, K Community, Degema local government area of Rivers State. Dismantling the illegal refineries, the Naval Commander, NNS Pathfinder Commodore Desmond Igbo, explained that each of the camps has up to 6 cooking pots and ovens that contain over 33,000 liters of crude oil products. The news continues in North Africa, where Egypt is threatening to renounce its peace pact with Israel, claiming that fighting in Gaza may compel the closing of the territory's major route for humanitarian supplies. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that the 4-month-old fight against the militant Palestinian organization Hamas will not be won without sending troops into Rafah, raising the possibility of suspending the Camp David Accord, a pillar of regional stability for almost 50 years. Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, signed an agreement on Sunday to eliminate double taxation on income and prevent tax evasion. The agreement shows the commitment of both countries to improving economic relations and bilateral cooperation, especially in the tax field, to promote fair taxation and equal investment opportunities. Malawi Bureau of Standards has suspended 10 operators in food processing sector for non-compliance to standards. A statement released on February 10, signed by the Bureau's Director General, Dr. Bernard Thole, said the action followed a routine assessment they conducted recently. The African Union Special Representative for Somalia and head of the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, ATMIS, Ambassador Mohammed El Amin Suef, has visited ATMIS personnel admitted to various hospitals in Nairobi, Kenya. The visit aimed to boost the morale of ATMIS personnel who were evacuated from the mission area in Somalia to Kenyan hospital for specialized treatment and care for various medical conditions. And that's a wrap on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osaoge and Joe.
Thank you very much, Adebola. Once again, very sad story there with the passing of Herbert Wigwe. As the days go by, I'm sure that there might be more information. You know, just listen to the police report there. You know, I was shocked at first, you know, when he said that he didn't have any flight data recorder on the helicopter, you know, and then he, of course, added that the helicopter wasn't required to have that. But it's just really, really sad. It's heartbreaking. And like I said, you know, he and a few others, they basically changed the story with regards to Nigeria's financial institutions, you know, in the last, 10, 20 years. they changed, you know, they made moves that, you know, you can only just dream about. And so it's heartbreaking, you know. So we pray for the family, and we hope that, of course, you know, they are comforted by God.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely, Osaoge, and our deepest condolences, you know, once again to their families and associates of Herbert Wigwe.
That's right. I mean, the president has come out to shed more light, especially on how the presidency feels about the demise. And President Tinubu has indeed also sent his condolences to the family. Sadly, they've left behind about three kids. But then again, trying to fathom what it would look like, life after not having a mother and a father whom you expected to come back home. You know, it's a long thing you just cannot process it. It's really deep. But then again, we'll talk about it in the course of our conversation for 7, possibly take a look at the reactions so far, especially Nigeria losing one of its finest and smartest experts, especially in the world, in the financial institution. But thank you so much, Dewala, for having given us breakfast headlines this morning.
Glad to be here.
All right. Okay, so the program continues. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at our top stories, plus a very big report. You did see it there concerning ironing something. I know, so
Yeah, it's a traditional practice, you know, and I'm just alarmed that it still happens. Honestly, I'm just alarmed that it still happens.
That's right. We'll be back. Stay with us. It's Breakfast Central. Watching Breakfast Central here on News Central on a Monday morning. Well, let's start off with very, very interesting information. Breast ironing. I bet you've heard of that name before. Well, also known as breast flattening, is a harmful traditional practice that involves using hard or heated objects to forcibly delay puberty in young girls. Specifically, the procedure involves heating a tool such as a pestle or stone and firmly pressing it against the breast area of girls, typically between the ages of 9 and 15 years old. Well, for years, advocates in Nigeria have campaigned to abolish this damaging custom. They contend that the breast ironing constitutes a form of child abuse that deprives girls of their fundamental rights and subjects them to unacceptable risks to their health and development. Well, our reporter decided to dig deep and take his time to find out more details in this report that you are about to watch.
Williams underwent breast ironing at age 10 due to her mother's concern about attracting male attention. The painful practice involves using hot objects to flatten the breast and delay their growth.
It's very painful. Immediately she's done. I used to feel my body is hot.
A decade later, Victoria Williams, who also experienced breast ironing, regrets subjecting her daughter to such an ordeal.
They did it to me. It worked. But when I gave birth to my own, I tried it, but it didn't work. My remaining 2 girls, I didn't do anything to them. All I am doing is that I used to draw them close to me, make them my friends. Anything bothering them, they will tell me.
While determining accurate statistics is difficult, an estimated 3.8 million African women are affected by breast ironing, according to health authorities. Chioma Agwegbu, a Nigerian gender rights activist, describes the harmful nature and human rights violations of the practice.
Imagine somebody heating up a stone and depressing a part of your body because they don't want that part of your body to grow. Nobody has the right to determine the rate of growth of any other person's body.
Nigeria classifies breast ironing as a criminal offense, along with female genital mutilation and forced marriage. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 specifically penalizes traditional harmful practices with a prison term of up to 4 years, a fine of up to 500,000 naira, or both. However, there are no known cases of offenders facing punishment under the law.
But in some certain places like here, people still do it. For my community leaders are people who listen to governments. So they are doing their best to see that it will come to an end.
Why is it that men or boys are not castrated as children? Right? Why does he feel that the entirety of being not promiscuous is being put on the woman?
Health risks include tissue damage, trauma, malformation, delayed breast milk production, and infection. Activists like Agwegbu and survivors like Williams assert that legislation alone is insufficient, and they are raising awareness in affected communities through media outreach and urging leaders to condemn the practice. In Lagos, for News Central, Ni Omoni.
That was Ni Omoni breaking it down, a practice that actually should be stopped and should be condemned. There was a question the lady asked in that video that got me saying, okay, hold up, hold on. I mean, why are men not castrated? It's likened to what's going on with the women and what they are indeed going through. So if you're a parent, or better still, you are someone who indeed has supported this form of tradition, I think it's high time that we have a review of the entire situation of things. Most importantly, in that report, it was even stated that it's not supported. It's very deep, very, very deep. These are some of the traditions that Africa still holds very close to its heart, and it should be let to go. So,
I don't know that it is a fair comparison, but I'm guessing that's pretty much the only thing that you could use.
Yeah.
Talking about castration, you know, I don't think it's the same thing. It's almost apples and oranges. But I get what she's trying to say, you know. And for me, I was thinking the same thing: that why is the burden of sexual purity placed on women and not on men? These are some of the things that have negatively affected, you know, the female gender for ages. You know, these are practices, and of course you can add female genital mutilation and many other things, you know, that you can that have, of course, existed for a long time that we're trying to change. it's one of them. And, like I said, I can't believe that in 2024 we're still having these type of conversations. What is wrong with having breasts? And why does the woman need to lose her breast in order for her to remain pure? I think the whole idea is it maybe reduces the chances of her having sexual intercourse, or maybe reduces the temptation that it brings into society. As a woman, I have no idea. I'm trying to make sense out of it. But once again, it is the pressure that is put on the woman and not on the man. A lot of times when we have these conversations about what women are dealing with, nobody talks about what men are dealing with. When we talk about sexual assault and anything in that regard, it's mostly concerning the woman. Don't dress this way, don't go out at night, don't do this. But we almost never have conversations about what men need to do in order to reduce the occurrence of sexual assault, which is simply respect women. Yeah. In families, and these things are born from, from birth. In families, the conversations that occur with regards sexual assault and with regards anything sex-related, it's never the boys being spoken to. It's always the women being spoken to. I remember that I'd had a conversation on radio many years ago, maybe 8 years ago, and it was regards sexual assault, at a concert, and I was saying back then that how come, nobody is talking to the boys? Nobody's telling the boys that this is wrong. Nobody's saying anything to boys that, you shouldn't do this. You should protect women at least. And I heard people call the radio show back then. I'm talking about pastors and lecturers, men, to say that, oh, don't you know a man is moved by what he sees, and so women always need to wear, watch what they wear, make sure that they're not out, late into the, at night, and some of all of that. And once again, it was a reminder to everyone that we never caution men. The burden of sexual purity and the burden of sexual purity generally is left for the women and not the men, which is very unfair. So. Once again, shameful that we're having this kind of conversations in 2024, and these things need to be put to a stop. It should be criminalized, actually, at this point. It might make more sense, to send people to jail for carrying out stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on from there. And, of course, one of the stories that broke over the weekend, really, really sad one. Access Bank PLC, of course, confirmed the death of his chief executive officer, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, along with his wife and son in a helicopter accident in the United States. The announcement was made in a statement signed by the group company's secretary, Sunday Equity, yesterday. According to the statement, the board will soon announce a new appointment for an acting group chief executive officer, even as they remain confident that the Access Bank Group will build further on Dr. Wigwe's legacy of growth and operational excellence. Like we said, very, 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 very hard to take this. Very, very painful. This was not, what anybody expected to happen this weekend. If Nigerians could win, or rather, if there was an option, to bring Herbert Wigwe back and let us not even play AFCON at all, I'm sure Nigerians would take that option.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get eliminated in the first stage of AFCON, by any team, that life wants to throw at us, but let's have Herbert Wigwe back. I'm sure that Nigerians would have taken that option. It's very painful. And like I said before, Nigeria has lost one of its brightest minds. The Nigerian financial institution has lost one of its greatest minds. He and a few others, changed the story and changed the game. They made moves in their 30s, late 30s that we can only dream about, and that's why they are so phenomenal. Himself, Agi Mokwete, a few other people, I would leave their names out, made moves that we can only dream about. And so it is hurtful to see the end of his name. Well, not the end of his name, but of course the end of his life. We're only hopeful, that the journey continues for the Wigwe family. The journey continues for Access Bank and for the things that he's built so far, and all of that. It's just really, really painful. Of course, there's other people who also passed. Ogunbanjo Abimbola Olurotimi, who was a former chairman of Nigerian Exchange Group PLC.
Coincidentally, I've met Mr. Ogunbanjo before. Abimbola Olurotimi, very, very, very amazing personality, very tall and very outspoken. Back in the days where I used to frequent the Nigerian Stock Exchange before it became the NGX. And anytime I go there, and he's always, I have to introduce him to give his speech, he always walks up to me and says, hope you have everything. Okay, fine. Is there anything else you need? And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm working with another very amazing person known as Olurotimi as well. And he's like, okay, fine, let's go. All right, bring me in. You know, it's sad to see these people go. For many, they've said it's the manner in which they left that hurts the most. But we've seen reactions, and reactions have come from different parts. Let's start off first with the former vice president, and of course, one who equally contested for the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar. He says, in the words of one of Nigeria's finest CEOs, Herbert Wigwe, today and always, let us remember that life is a precious gift, a chance to breathe, feel love, experience, and connect. Let's honor the gift by living with purpose, kindness, and gratitude, making every moment count. Let us number our days. I'm deeply saddened to hear about the unfortunate incident that led to the loss of Herbert Wigwe, Group Chief Executive Officer of Access Holdings PLC, and his family. Indeed, Herbert Wigwe, consummate banker, education promoter, and philanthropist, numbered his days. On behalf of my family, my heart goes out to their loved ones and everyone affected by this unfortunate incident. May their souls rest in peace. AA, that stands for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Very, very sad.
Yeah, very sad. We also, of course, got to see Femi Otedola, another one of Nigeria's biggest businessmen also. He also put out a tweet. Alex Otio also put out a tweet. Peter Obi, the Labour Party candidate, oh yeah, that's what he said. I'm deeply saddened by the tragic news of the passing of my dear friend, Mr. Herbert Wigwe, the CEO of Access Holdings, along with his wife and son, and another close friend, Abimbola Ogunbanjo, former chairman or group chairman of NGX Group. So yes, it's really, really painful. Dr. Alex Oti, the Abia State governor, put out a very long and painful message.
So he was expecting him to come back. They just spoke recently as well.
Even the NBA put out a message. I think Herbert was an investor at the American basketball. And so they also put out a message, you know, announcing his very painful.
They were funny enough, when the NBA decided to come into Africa as well, Herbert and of course the entire Access holding were a big supporter of having that. They saw it as a way to channel growth and development, especially for Nigerian youth and the future of sports as well. The Lagos State governor also tweeted, and in his lengthy tweet, he said, Herbert, my brother, my friend, and my advisor, Herbert, the king of visionary and disruptive ideas. I'm deeply saddened by the tragic loss of my dear brother and friend, Dr. Herbert Wigwe, his dear wife, Doreen, and their beloved son, Chizi, in a helicopter crash. Herbert was not just a brother and visionary leader, but one of the brightest minds in Africa. His impact on our nation and beyond will be remembered forever. My heart mourns. And he went ahead to go, break down, and then also remembered the other person who's highly respected as well. He said, we also lost another great business leader and legal luminary, my Egbo, Abimbola Ogunbanjo, former group chairman of Nigeria Exchange Group PLC, who contributed significantly to the development of the capital markets and corporate law in Nigeria. And in difficult time, our thoughts are with the families of all the victims, and we pray for strength and grace. And we here on Breakfast Central, we're also taking time to, to talk about this. It's quite hard to start off on a Monday morning, and then all you do is come and look at the life and times of someone who was all right and nothing happened. But that's life, you know. And in his own words, he said, let's number our days. Very deep, kind of like reminds me of what the Holy Book says as well, that we need to count our days, because, you know, for me, life, you're here today, tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, a very Nigerian way to look at this really is also to say, you know, God, why this one? You know, there's many others that we would have, you know, we won't mind, you know, but not this one. That's a very Nigerian way to, you know, to see these things. And I'm sure that many people thought the same thing, that not this particular one, you know, take this one or that one. In fact, take 10 of these ones, but leave this particular one for us. But, you know, it's not our decision to make, you know, when that time comes. And another thing you know, that this shows once again, or it reminds everyone, is, you know, how final death is. You can't change your mind. You know, there's no coming back from it. There's no, you know, nothing, you know, would be done, you know, to ever have him back. Have him back at Access Bank, have him back as a father, as a husband, have him back as a friend, have him back as a leader in, you know, in the financial institutions community. Have him back as a visionary, have him back, you know, across the continent. It would never happen again. So his legacy just has to live on. You know, I think it now is left for those around him, those who were his closest associates, those who were his family, to ensure that his legacy lives on forever and ever and ever. We can talk for days about Herbert Wigwe and how hurtful this is and how much of a loss this is to Nigeria. But there's only so much, you know, that we can say. We, of course, would have all the conversations lined up this morning. Once again, rest in peace to Herbert Wigwe and Olurotimi Ogunbanjo, and of course, you know, the Herbert Wigwe's wife Doreen and their son Chizzy. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we continue this morning on Breakfast Central.
News Central ni ẹ̀ ń wò.
Welcome once again. I'll start today's monologue with a short excerpt from the Punch newspapers from 10th February, and it reads here. It says, in an interview with Sunday Punch on Friday, the special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, urged the federal government to weed its ranks of moles loyal to the opposition who are leaking classified documents. Onanuga said what is worrisome is how a memo written by the SGF to the president and bearing the president's signature leaked out. It means that there are some fifth columnists within the government. It's not the first time a memo would leak. There was a memo leak when the president went to the UNGA about the request for money to pay his hotel bills, and you wonder where it's leaking from. He goes on to say there are many moles around who are probably doing the bid of the opposition. They are not respecting the civil service rule for handling official secrets, and it shows that the government should look inwards to probe how memos between officials are getting into the public space. End of quote. Of course, I was quoting Bayo Onanuga there, one of the spokespersons for Nigeria's current president. Now, it's not entirely alarming to see government, concerned about leaked, supposedly confidential memos at the highest office in the land. That shouldn't just, of course, occur so easily. Memos just don't leak like that, and it maybe should be something that should concern the government. It's not strange to see them being concerned. The only problem here is that this isn't necessarily a top secret memo. It's not a national security document that is meant for just a few eyes. This is a simple letter from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation requesting approval of funds. So now you must then question, why is this letter enough to warrant such panic to investigate moles in the government? Well, it's because of the content of the letter. The government that told you to tighten your belt and endure a little is in panic mode because these documents show that while the average Nigerian is told to endure and bear the suffering of current economic hardships, the people in government are seeking 1 billion naira to inaugurate a committee. 1 billion naira. And even worse, that the concern of government representatives and spokesmen isn't the wastage of Nigeria's money, but instead the fact that the document was exposed to the public. Are you still in dreamland thinking that, you know, the Nigerian government is fighting corruption? I said it a few weeks ago that the country is dying and they are simply feasting on its dying body. Some of the people you have in government today don't care about your country. Some, if not most of the people you have in government today are okay with burying Nigeria in the deepest hole as long as they make money in the process. That's really it. And then they take that money to give themselves a better life abroad. And it's the honest truth. There's many people that are currently in government that don't mind if Nigeria is buried in the deepest hole on earth. They don't mind if the country burns to the ground. As long as while it is burning or in the process of it burning, they make some money. They make as much money as possible. Many of them took the Emilokon call very personally. But not to say that it is our turn to fix Nigeria. That's not what Emilokon meant to them. They took it as it's our turn to steal. It's our turn to fill our pockets. It's our turn to gather as much as we can. And so they will focus on those who are exposing the theft instead of stopping the theft. They will threaten to control social media instead of tracking or taking steps to fix the problems Nigerians are complaining about on social media. These people don't care if the naira is exchanging at 5,000 naira or 50,000 naira to the dollar. They don't care if bandits or kidnappers are having a free-for-all with citizens. They don't care if billions are siphoned from government accounts to foreign bank accounts. They don't care. They only panic when you hear about it. They are masters at gaslighting you to believe that you are unpatriotic for complaining. So to people like the person I quoted earlier, Bayo Nanuga, what is worrisome isn't the moles in government. What is worrisome is the insanity of spending 500 million or 1 billion naira to set up a committee to discuss the increment of minimum wage. What is worrisome is that there's many of your type in government today who are more concerned about hiding the alleged mismanagement of Nigeria's wealth than actually stopping it. And every single one of such people should be ashamed of themselves. That's it. Stay with us. We continue this morning with Breakfast Central.
Very deep one there on Wigwe, Nigeria. Thought-provoking, right? Yes, on a Monday morning. To get you thinking and get you wondering what the way is and which way Nigeria should go. And talking of which way, let's now look at the insecurity situation that's currently bedeviling the nation. The Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA, over the weekend in Kaduna marked its Diamond Jubilee. The #1 citizen, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was at the ceremony in his speech, lauded the sacrifices of the armed forces to keep the country safe, promising the federal government's continued support. He also charged the military to intensify its fight against insurgency and insecurity. Now, here is what we know. Nigerians currently have expressed dissatisfaction with the current state of insecurity nationwide. So it doesn't matter whether you are from Calabar, whether you're from Osun State, you're from Lagos, you're from Abia, you're from Adamawa. Everyone is indeed speaking. All right. Now, Katsina Governor Diko Rada says he is a target by bandits and communities, and also he called on all to protect themselves henceforth. The Nigerian army also has called for similar support given to the Super Eagles in the fight, especially looking at the just concluded AFCON. They say, go ahead, also support us like you supported the Super Eagles. But the question is, how? How would Nigerians support them? Well, at #4 on what we know, well, two GUO motos, if you recall, this past weekend were attacked in recent days. Passengers kidnapped. And the saddest scene was the drivers seemed to be the ones who received the bullets. And then a little child was left in one of the cars alongside a dead driver. Very, very sad. Kidnappers now go from house to house to pick up victims, as we have seen multiple videos on social media where residents are claiming that people came to their houses, tried to break in and also to take them away. Opposition parties have indeed called for Tinubu to step down. Now, that's another thing that we know concerning insecurity in Nigeria as we speak, taking a look at it on a Monday morning. And finally, well, not actually the last, there's a mass protest likely to spread across different states, especially now that the football masterpiece or showpiece has ended. Nigerians have all of a sudden decided to return to status quo and focus seriously on the issues that's indeed facing the nation. Well, this morning, we're looking at the insecurity level, and that's exactly what we're doing. Sadly, our guest had to indeed call off this interview due to a very challenging situation that he faced this morning. We hope that indeed he gets very well. But then again, I would like to throw it open to you, Nigerians. What's the insecurity like in your area? Tell us, and we'd like to know. You could tweet, and if time permits and the producer allows as well, well, I think the phone lines are indeed open for you to feel free and let us know what insecurity looks like in your area. It's our duty here on News Central, also on Breakfast Central, to ensure that we continue to inundate, educate, and most importantly, let you Nigerians know how it's happening and what is actually going on. And that's exactly what we're doing this morning. The insecurity level in Nigeria is indeed taking a different twist, and we will continue to talk about it. Now, in my area, I can tell you that it's a case of everybody watching out for every other person. That's what's going on. And conversations are already going on, seeing how possible it is to beef up security. It's really happening. And sadly, Osage, we're starting to see these things happen even in more folks. Kind of like reminds me of way back while growing up. When I grew up in the streets of Surulere, and I recall at a certain point in time, insecurity was so high that everybody, each home, had to provide a child or a son who would join the other children, and then they would form a vigilante, and they wouldn't sleep at night.
I remember 90s, there used to be a routine then where there was a vigilante on almost every street, and so they would take the wheel of a tire and hang it at almost every junction, you know, and so your vigilante, I think every hour they walk around and then hit the wheel, just to the gong, exactly, let everybody know that they are still there and they're, you know, watching over, because the spate of armed robbery back then was really, really high. That was late 90s, I believe. It used to be a thing. Eventually that passed. I have asked, I think it was last week, I was asking one of the guests that we had, if we're having a situation, I think I've mentioned it before, if they're overwhelmed or underprepared. I'm talking about the Nigerian security agencies and the Nigerian government with regards dealing with the insecurities Nigeria is currently dealing with. Are they overwhelmed, or do they come in underprepared, or do they just not have what it takes to be able to handle these security challenges? And another thing is it really even a problem to them? Because there's a level of attention that you pay to something when it genuinely is a problem to you. When you as a president, or you as a governor, or you as the IG of police, or whoever, whatever role you have, sees that this is genuinely a problem to you and you value the Nigerian life and the promises that you made to the Nigerian people when you were taking those positions. So it's either it's not really such a problem to them, or they're overwhelmed with it, or they're just underprepared. You know, they just cannot get to, you know, it solved because they don't have what it takes. It's one of all these things, or it's all of them put together. I think one of our guests last week said the same thing, that it's maybe just all of them put together. You know, these are the things that we need to x-ray, you know, and wonder, okay, so what is the challenge with policing? You know, before we get to the level where we start to say we need state police. Many people have, you know, said that might be the answer. Let's you know, change the constitution or make amendments to the constitution so that we can have state police. That would definitely help with the situation. Before we get there, with what we currently have, how best can we tackle the situation on kidnapping and banditry and the likes? In what ways can we reduce these attacks, you know, or maybe end these attacks completely? Is it with proper arming of the Nigerian police force or the NSCDC or with the Nigerian army? We don't even want to be seeing the Nigerian army, you know, on the streets, except we are tackling actual terrorists, here in the country. But aside that, in what ways can we better arm the police? In what ways can we invest more in Nigeria's security? In what ways can, you know, the billions of naira that are supposedly used and budgeted for insecurity every year, in what ways can they be better used to arm the Nigerian police? And if, for any reason, there's been a proper audit on police funds in the last 10 years, and we realize that the reason that the police has not been able to take action and fix Nigeria's security challenges is because the billions of naira that they are supposedly budgeted for every year doesn't get into the right places, then those are some of the things that, you know, if we're serious as a nation about answering the questions with regards to insecurity, these are some of the things that we need to start asking ourselves. If, you know, hundreds of millions of naira or billions of naira have been budgeted for security or for the police in the last couple of years, and those funds have not been adequately used, if they've been diverted, if they were meant to be used for training and for equipment and for arms and ammunition for the police and they've been diverted, these are questions that we need to ask. But again, the main question really would be, how much of a problem is it for the government in power today? How much responsibility do they take for failing to protect Nigerians? How much responsibility do they take for failing the people that voted them into office? Everybody who currently is in, you know, some kidnappers' dens, in some forest, in Benue or in Kaduna or in Nasarawa or Borno, anywhere in Abuja, on the outskirts of the FCT, everybody who is there now, does the Nigerian government owe them or realize how much of responsibility it owes them to protect these individuals or not? That, for me, is also one of the core issues. If they don't feel like they owe you anything. The president was at the AFCON finals. And this is at the same time that we're talking about security challenges across Nigeria. And so how much, you know, do they believe that they owe to you as a Nigerian? If you as a Nigerian in any part of the country, in Ibadan, in Lagos, in Osun State, in Delta State, anywhere in the Southeast, if you are kidnapped today, all 15 of you, including your family members, does the current Nigerian government believe that they owe it to you to ensure that you come out alive, safe and sound? I don't think so. And that's not the attitude that we see from the current Nigerian government. And that's maybe why these things would continue, because the news says, you know, the president has given them, once again, given them marching orders and given them, the orders to go ahead and end insecurity in Nigeria. But we heard these things a million times in the past administration. In fact, we've been hearing this in Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Muhammadu Buhari's administration had the same thing. Marching orders after marching orders after marching orders. But it didn't seem to change much. And so, if we hear about, you know, once again, the president's giving the army and security agencies marching orders to end security, nobody, you know, seems to be, you know, inspired by that. Until we see a complete change in attitude, you know, towards these things. It might be business as usual. Nigeria's security challenges cannot, there's no way anybody would convince you as a Nigerian that it's just too much for the country or for the people in office to solve. Nobody should be able to convince you that that's what it is. Because there's a budget every year. And if you don't see any difference in the way that budgeting is done, maybe redirecting funds to security, if you don't see any difference in the way that things were done in 2015, 2016, 2017, all the way till now, then it means that there's no different in there. There's not going to be any difference in the attitude towards solving these problems. I watched a video on X, you know, over the weekend, a man who was saying that these kidnappers, the people who are, you know, behind these kidnappers are not, I mean, the people that you see being arrested, they're not the ones really behind it. And I've had that argument before, that there are people who are behind these kidnap groups that the Nigerian government needs to ensure that they trace and they find out. That would be the start to ending it. Because the people who we arrest every now and then, and you say that civilian JTF, you know, made a bust in the forest and killed 3 or 4 of the kidnappers, those aren't the people who have been, you know, behind the kidnappings that are going on in Nigeria. There's other people. Those people don't look like they've seen 1 million naira cash in their lives before. And these are people who have been collecting 50, 60, 100 million naira, you know, in ransom for many, many Nigerians. There's people behind it.
It's a tragic situation. I mean, we did put up the phone lines just in case you want to tell us what the security situation really is like in your area. It's one way that we can actually give our own contribution to helping the security operatives to, of course, get more fact-finding and, of course, get more information on how best, because as far as we're concerned, it has to be a concerted effort. It cannot just be let alone to one person or just security operative. So tell us, what is the security situation in your area? You can feel free to call the phone lines in the course of the conversation, because that's exactly what we're looking at. One of the major key things that the Katsina governor, Diko Rada, said, I mean, he came out over the weekend to say that in his state in Katsina, the bandits, the insecurity, the attackers, name them, everything grouped together, that they are after him and they're also after the people of Katsina State. And that moved him to say, listen, it's not that they are not depending on the federal government to provide help and succor and protection, but he's saying if the people of Katsina will need to protect themselves, they have to go ahead and protect themselves. That's what he said. Now, not just that, he also highlighted one very key fact in which economists have also highlighted, especially those who did come here on the show. A bag of rice, as we speak now, is 77,000 naira this weekend. That's quite different from just last week when we were indeed mentioning that it was 70,000 naira, and some of the newspapers did a round check in the marketplaces and found what the prices are. Well, let's speak to Kunle, who's joining from Victoria Island in Lagos here. Kunle, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. I'm afraid you might have to speak up so we can hear you. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
All right, great. You're calling from VI, I believe, right?
From VI, yes, from VI.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead, please.
So tell us, what's the security like in Victoria Island?
Yeah, you know, is cool. But what I want to say about the killing is that our government, they cannot tell us they did not know about the killing. They know these people. You know, how many times do we have already write about the people, you know, doing some things, you know, let Nigeria know their names. You know, nobody can go to farm. Everything is expensive. You know, me, I don't know what to do in this country. And you say people should not japa. Our people will not be japa. They will japa now. You know, I have 3 children. To feed them a day. Bros, I know life for you. No be my mind. And you cannot tell children that have you belle. Can you ask your children that have you belle food? No one can ask his children that. You know, Nigeria is getting worse every day by day. Please, the only thing they can do, they should cut all the Senate, what's their name? They should cut their salary down. They should cut everything down. People are dying every day. You know, have a lovely Monday, bro.
All right, thank you, Kule. Cutting the salary of the security chiefs who don't even have enough. Well, Kule, that might seem like a very, very dicey suggestion there, but I don't think that would, you know. Anyway,
we're going to have you know, an security expert join us to, of course, break down further the security conversations. You know, and of course, I think for me the question is the Nigerian government serious about really securing Nigeria? And that for me is the real question. Regardless of how many of these statements are made, is the Nigerian government serious? What are the signs to maybe look at to say that, okay, we maybe are serious about dealing with Nigeria's security challenges? Is President Tinubu serious about it or not? But let's quickly have a recap of some of the things we've spoken about in the past hour, and of course share with you what's coming up next on the second half of Breakfast Central.
In the recap, we just talked about the President Tinubu, who has called for intense fight against insecurity, and that's got to do with the Diamond Jubilee event that took place this past weekend.
And of course, we spoke about Nigeria's 1 billion naira committee to discuss minimum wage increment.
Advocates campaign against breast ironing practice, one practice that we've brought forth to let people know that this is not what we should be talking about in 2024. But then again, Breakfast Central continues. You feel free to call in as we proceed in the second hour. But we'll talk about AFCON 2023, Cote d'Ivoire crowned African champions. And then we do have programs to watch later on today.
Absolutely. And of course, the newspaper front page is coming up in just a few minutes. Join us and have your thoughts on these stories. Now it's time to find out what big stories are making headlines this Monday morning across the newspapers. And joining us, we have public affairs analyst Deyemi Saka. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
We're kicking off with the Vanguard newspapers this morning. Let's see what we can find over there. Hopefully some good news. It says their higher prices loom as businesses rely more on loans to survive.
That's some good news, right?
I don't know. I don't know that.
I was just trying to be a prophet. I was trying to be a prophet of positivity. So don't blame me.
Borrowing from banks rises 52%, 1.83 trillion naira. Interest payments rise 332.3% to 589.62 billion naira. Edo gubernatorial Benin chief Ikimi, senators, NLC chairman emerged PDP delegates. Labour Party aspirants form alliance to secure ticket. Nigeria needs spiritual help to solve challenges, says Deboye. And also harsh economy pushing Nigerians to crime. Afe Babalola is speaking. Top of the screen there, rain, wintry weather caused the crash, says the United States. Of course, that's referring to Herbert Wigwe's very sad passing over the weekend. Reform. It will save Nigeria $40 billion spent on medical tourism, says Governor Obaseki. All right. Once again, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's kickstart with, of course, your quick thoughts on Herbert Wigwe's passing. And then we can also talk about some other things, including Nigeria needing spiritual help to solve its challenges.
It's a sad one because there's no one who writes my story about how I got here without writing his name or his name not coming in that story. It's a sad one. And I think for me, this was the first time I think Nigerians are rational with their emotions and I'm happy that I think people are now more humane than being insensitive. At least for the very first time, I'm not seeing these regular. There could be pockets of it, but people already preaching vanity upon vanity when somebody of means passes on. It's a sad loss, not just for his family, for the country as a whole. He's an aspiring businessman. He has done so well for himself. I think he still had plans of doing more. And when such a man, gets caught, down in his prime, it's always a sad one for anyone. It gets scary because you probably ask yourself, life is so fleeting, anything can happen.
Yeah, really sad.
Really sad.
All right, and
I'm
also
in shock, though.
Yeah, I think for the next couple of days, we are still going to imagine that this is a dream.
Yeah, like painful. Maybe it's a Hollywood flick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really painful. All right, does Nigeria need spiritual help to solve its challenges, or do we need a government that is serious?
With all due respect to Enoch Adejare Adeboye, the G of Redeemed Christian Church of God, I think that him and other religious leaders should stop either attempting or deliberately insulting the collective intelligence of Nigerians. We should tell ourselves the truth. I read my Bible to a very large extent. I knew how prophets of old went and confronted kings. Samuel did to Saul. Samuel did to David as well at some point. So I don't think you should be pampering the ego of these guys. Call a spade and not a cutlass. Nigeria doesn't need spiritual help. Probably want to ask Adeboye to tell us the spiritual help that helped Rwanda, or that helped Egypt, or that helped India. Because at the point when I was in primary school, India, Nigeria, Brazil were termed developing nations. Yeah. I don't think we have so much Christians in India like we have in Nigeria. In fact, cows and snakes are gods, a symbol of godliness in India, while we see them as meat and bush meat in Nigeria. And they're progressing. India is a nuclear power. Brazil has the fifth, if not the fifth, or probably but is in the top 10 country when it comes to defense industry. Brazil, without probably want to make the Tucano jets that we went purchasing. The company that does most of the job is domiciled in Brazil. So tell me what they did in Brazil that that pointed the fact that it was a spiritual thing. So I think they should get serious. They should come to realization that the religious manipulation, hypnotism will not work. Let's tell ourselves the truth. We have bad leadership, we have rudderless leadership, we have clueless leadership, and we have unfocused leadership.
Yeah.
And wicked leadership as well.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, because I'll cite an instance. We saw the leaked memo. People might want to say the process, how they think got leaked was, but you saw the leaked memo of, the SGF spending 1 billion, 500 million, some report 500 million, some report 1 billion constitutes a panel or the body to negotiate when Nigerians are dying. You probably see the budget, the Appropriation Act of 2024. You saw the billions of naira budgeted allocated for the office of the chief of staff. I'm wondering, is that going to be the headquarters of, the DSS that has to do with the configuration? So you see, and you want to tell me these guys are not wicked? They are. And in the midst of this, Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are barely surviving. It's not like we can't talk about standard of living. We talk about the standard of surviving or survivor. So they're wicked.
That's a good one. I think I agree with that definition that Nigerians are surviving. Because if you look through the ranks of how Nigerians are living each day, especially starting from today, we just discussed that the bag of rice is now 77,000 naira.
How much is the minimum wage?
How much is what?
Minimum wage.
35,000 naira.
35.
And some people have still not gotten the minimum wage. Some states do not even pay the minimum wage.
Without trying to scare people, some security agencies and paramilitary, agencies did not even get their December salaries until January. Some of them had a dry Christmas.
Of course. I think hopefully we'll get into that paper as well that talks about the number of persons who equally work for for the government who still have not received their salaries.
And the sad thing is this, companies relying on loans and everything. I think we should, and I should take Nigerians back. And I probably would say President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man of honor. Because he told us. Nigerians didn't just pay attention, probably just felt it was just losing touch with, cerebral functionality. He told us, he said we'll reduce the purchasing power of the people and will further slow down the economy and expand the tax net. He said it, as I'm saying. So any economics out there, if you slow down the economy, what does that mean? Does that make any sense? Is there anything wrong in any economy growing at any pace or speed or rate? And if you're going to reduce the purchasing power of the people, that means you're telling them that either they're going to become underemployed because, and probably there's going to be inflation and there's going to be a devaluation of your currency. That's exactly what happened.
So you think it's intentional? Well, because there's people who would argue that, it was maybe just a mumbled speech. It wasn't necessary.
He said it and it's happening. It's not deliberate. He said it and it's happening. He said it would slow down the economy. The economy has slowed down. He said it would reduce the purchasing power of the people. It's not obvious. 30,000 naira in January 2023 is almost like 7,000 naira in February 2024. Yeah. Has it not reduced the purchasing power?
It does. Because a pint of Gary.
So he said it. So I think Nigerians should, whether we like it or not, we laid our bed with tongues, so we should bleed in it. He told us what he was going to do. We went ahead with it and felt it was an economic genius, he's a financial guru, he did it in Lagos, we do it and we're saying it. It's all about rent taking.
Increased taxation as, of course, the only economic policy that, these people are familiar with.
No, I think it shows the laziness of people in government because there are two things they think of. They probably they want to go for revenue generation and they want to tackle unemployment, and the first thing they do is they open up the civil service. Yeah. And they come up with a law of, what they call empowerment scheme, and you look at how far can this go. You probably ask yourself, can you walk into any Nigerian bank or any government bank, backed by government, with just your business plan or business idea and you get a loan at a single-digit rate? No.
Never.
So if you don't support entrepreneurship, that was what brought America out of the recession in the 60s. They went back to small business enterprise. They developed it. They created a lot of millionaires from their garages and what have you. But in Nigeria, that's why I said Nigeria is a secret society, because there's a limit to what you can earn.
Yeah.
And there's a limit to what you can have access to. You have to be some persons or be before you can. So whether we like it or not, it's I don't know. But if there's deep thinking, we could make a lot. Brazil, the last time I checked in 2014, was making $3 billion from exportation of bananas. What can we do? We can't export yam to UK and US. And a tuber of yam sells for at least, let's say, $20, $30 in the US. But Ghana is cashing in on that. And we call ourselves giants of Africa. Well, we've been shown we're not, at least yesterday, we lost.
Anyway, just a reminder of yours, we have phones active. If you want to be part of the conversation, quickly call those lines. You can also tweet at News Central TV. Let us know your thoughts on these stories. If any of them really bothers you, or you would like to maybe disagree with Deyemi Saka this morning, please go ahead. Let's have you do that.
Please, I want to ask you, how will our banks declare profits at the end of the year, financial year?
Yeah.
I'm still amazed how they keep,
Well, I think for the financial institution,
what business are they into?
Come on. I mean, the new taxations now from the banking sector. Most importantly, we've also gone to see that for every transaction, I was trying to use my mobile bank, and it told me going forward to use your mobile banking, you'll be charged £6.45 kobo or something for every time you try to use the mobile bank. And I'm like, hold on. So this is very different from the charges that come, the 25 naira and so on that come. They said, yes, it's quite different. This is different from the the new tax that comes at the end of every month.
I think
so for multiple taxations, I'm sure the bank is also able to sustain itself.
But I think we should even ask ourselves a question, because the banks and the financial institution is even ripping Nigerians off. Now, the question is this. There is no way in Nigeria now a 10,000 naira transaction becomes 10,000 naira transaction at the end of it. I'm going to send 10,000 naira to somebody. I've been charged for the transaction fee and everything. It gets to the personal account. It doesn't get to the as 10,000 naira. And that is probably we should look at. I think we should look at it. The Consumer Protection Council should look at it. How can 10,000 naira not be 10,000 naira?
But there's also another question, which I've asked since last week. Where are the regulatory bodies?
No, because that's the truth. How can 10,000 naira that left my account will not be 10,000 naira when it gets to someone's account?
Where are the regulatory agencies? Across board, from SON down to NCC, you name them, across board. It's a different conversation that we're going to have. Yeah. Let's go to another paper. Let's go straight to, let's take a look at Guardian this morning. Guardian always giving us infography on some of the very important conversations that we have every day. It says, exiting oil firms pollute Niger Delta with 36.1 milliliters of crude in 8 years. That conversation is inside of the Guardian. You might want to take a look at it. But let's look at another one. Anglican Church, Afe Babalola tasked Tinubu on fiscal policies. That's a big one. Serap sues Akpabio Abbas over 344.85 billion naira National Assembly budget. What happened to that money? And WHO predicts global shortage of 10 million health workers. It's global, not just in Nigeria. They're not just leaving Nigeria to go to the UK at work. WHO says it's going to be a global problem. Let's put it that way. US begins investigation into crash as Access Holdings scouts for Wigwe's replacement. Many have come out to say they think it was unethical for the communique that was released, the press release from the bank, to quickly mention that the replacement will be mentioned in due course. They would have allowed the situation to have come down at least for everything to breathe. I mean, I've seen comments here and there, but then I'm going to get your feedback on that as well. Tinubu berates ASU, others for criticizing student loan scheme, says no going back. And we'll take a final one. APC aspirants suspends participation in Edo Guba primary. And let's start off first with that one I mentioned, the communique that was released by the bank. And then we'll take it straight into Serap actually suing Akpabio and Abbas over a budget.
Well, I think Nigerians are just overly motivated. It's a due process. The nature, like you said, nature abhors vacuum. Whether we like it or not, somebody has to direct the affairs of the company or the organizations, or else there probably will be a lot of power play, and you probably will lose track, and people can scheme and get away with a lot of things. When former President Yar'Adua died, nobody said let the family ill or probably get, well, let things calm down before President Goodluck Jonathan was sworn in. We saw, I think, a governor when Akeredolu, was, when Akeredolu, while he was sick or ill, some people used this illness to stay in power. When he died, nobody felt to say because he has done so much for the state or the Amatekun, let him, it's a transition that must occur. If Herbert Wigwe of blessed memory now resigns from Access Bank if he's alive, somebody would have stepped in immediately. So
and it's normal protocol that the bank will put out a statement. It's their external communications, crisis management. They will, it's normal.
It's not in putting out the statement.
No,
that they say.
No, let me say
in the last part of
let me tell you something.
Said,
if that assurance was not there from the bank, investors would get panicked.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's regular.
It's regular because they have to look at investors. They have to. What I would like is they have to look at even doing about Wigwe a favor by preserving his legacy. Because if that wasn't put out, if people that felt naturally they're in line in succession and nothing is said about them, they get panicked, they want to opt out and what have you. And these guys too are shareholders. So it's for the stability and for the sustained existence of the bank, or they should just, and that's a normal procedure. So Nigerians should please calm down. Sometimes we attack logical issues with emotions and we lose it.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the leaders we have.
All right. Serap is suing Akpabio and Abbas over 344.85 billion naira National Assembly budget. Your thoughts?
The National Assembly is a fantastic institution, You look at it, you look at how much they say they use in probably sewage evacuation. Well, I've been to the National Assembly a couple of times. Yeah, it's a massive structure, but I don't think I don't know. We need to tell ourselves the truth because if one day I get to the floor, I get on the floor as a member of the National Assembly, there's some few things that probably move motion as a member and I might not be liked or loved or favored because the first I'm going to move against the constituency allowance, constituency project, we don't have business building roads. We just have business making laws. I think when we take these things away from them, we'll go far.
Yeah. We, of course, we'll see how this one goes because Serap is always in and out of the courts, getting rulings, sometimes in their favor, I believe, against the Nigerian government. So we'll see if this one also will how this one will turn out. But, it's really what it will change. Because even if they win this case, the government orders, National Assembly to bring review details on anything of these spendings, it may not change anything. And I know the way the Nigerian government has been for a long time. It's almost a waste of time. That's what many people would see it as. Hardship states in Nigeria risk total collapse amid rising hunger, unemployment, JACPA says a report. And yes, we're starting to see more and more protests in different parts of the country. The hunger, of course, is on some levels that nobody has ever experienced before. But, it's what our current reality is. Quickly to the Daily Trust. It says there, top of your screen on the Daily Trust, the big bold story there says, federal workers in 90 MDAs yet to get January salaries. We are currently on the 12th day in the month of February. High cost of living, pray, repent, Sultan tells Nigerians. Nigeria experiencing stalled per capita growth, poverty, food insecurity, says IMF. Alleged killing of graduates sparks protests in Kaduna community, and also Cote d'Ivoire overpower Nigeria to lift AFCON 2023 trophy. Forex crisis, had registration below 50% as payment closes today. All right, I think we could quickly start with the Nigeria experiencing stalled per capita growth, poverty, and food insecurity, and that is from the IMF. I once again, would probably ask the question, the people who are in government today, are they overwhelmed or are they underprepared for the task ahead?
I don't think so because people might say I'm being mischievous. I'm just deliberately, mocking Nigerians and what have you. The IMF report still, aligned with what Bola Ahmed Tinubu said while he was campaigning. Stalled economic growth. He said it was going to slow down the economy. So I think what Nigerians should be asking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is why is he slowing down the economy? To what end? Maybe if you explain to Nigerians, you can get our buy-ins and we can know, it's just for a while, we are in this together. But, you know, but why? But it's going to be difficult for him because why he wants to get the buy-in, say we should bear with them. Look at the state out budget and you want to ask yourself, but you are not suffering with us.
Yeah.
You want to look at if you are sick, you're flying to France, not staying in Nigeria. And it's sad, and you know, you see, it's only in Nigeria you hear ridiculous things, and you know, and some of the media aides or you know sympathizers or vuvuzelas of politicians, they think Nigerians are dullards. How can a public office holder go on a private visit with public funds?
I mean, they could argue that it wasn't with public funds. You know.
Sorry, which jet took him out?
Of course, Nigeria.
So the question is, did they go there as Bola Ahmed Tinubu or President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
President.
As long as you're in office, you're in office 24/7. So we should wake up. And I think the Sultan, with all respect to him as well, people should stop peeing on Nigerians' faces and tell us it's raining. I can't tell us to pray and repent. You go to the palace of the Sultan of Sokoto, do you see poverty there? If you don't, then why are you talking? So is it because you are holier than all Nigerians? Or is it because, I don't know, I think we should tell ourselves,
all right,
we should downplay religion.
All right, good morning, what's your name, please?
Hello, this is Emeka from Anambra State.
Emeka?
Emeka from Anambra State.
All right, welcome, go ahead.
So, I don't know if it is just me, but I wake up asking myself, do we have leaders in Nigeria?
I mean, we have people in office. I don't know about leaders, but we have people currently in office.
Do we have leaders? Having someone in office is different from having a leader. I need Nigerians to begin to ask ourselves this question. Do we have leaders in Nigeria? How can you tell me you have a president who campaigned and said, don't pity me, give me the job? Now the job has been given to you. It's not like I was going to say he seems clueless. But let's call it spade a spade. He is clueless about leadership. During the campaigns, we heard how he transformed Lagos, how he did this, how he did that. Oh yeah, let him transform Nigeria. The question this morning is, do we have leaders in Nigeria? Let us begin to ask ourselves this question. Do we have leaders in this country? Is it when people start dying of hunger? Is it when people start killing themselves? Probably, maybe, I can't afford food again. Let me kill my neighbor and eat my neighbor. Is that when these people elected into office will sit up and begin to do what they are supposed to do? I ask again, do we have leaders in this country? You said we have people in office. But the question is, do we have leaders in this country? Let us begin to ask ourselves this question. Good morning.
All right, good morning. From Anambra this morning, Emeka, thanks for calling. But of course, he's asked, you know, a very, very important question. Is there any leadership?
Do we have good leaders or do we have bad leaders? Do we have sensible leaders or do we have, you know, do we have wise leaders or do we have otherwise leaders? So, you know, those are the questions we should be asking. We have leaders, but it's the question of what type of leadership or what kind of leadership are they offering Nigerians? Do we have leaders that have direction or do we have leaders that are rudderless?
Yeah, man, but is the main problem the fact that, you know, there's this belief that almost nothing will be done. So it almost feels like you can sit in office for 4 years, gaslight, you know, the electorate long enough, have spokespersons tell them that they're unpatriotic for complaining, but you just know in your heart that nothing's going to take you out of here for the next 4 years.
No, they're going to be shocked, and I'll tell you this, because I see their attempt, like you said, gaslighting Nigerians. They're now syndicating the situation in Venezuela. Said it hasn't gotten this bad to justify what's happening in Nigeria. And I remember there was a time I was with Nigerian ex-international Joseph Dosu. He said something to me way back, and that's been like a creed. He said, is it because your neighbor's wife has a miscarriage does it make your wife having a miscarriage a good thing?
Of course not.
Of course not. So we should. So it's you see, I say this. I'm not predicting doom, but if you have a serious NSA, there knows the implication of what is happening, and if this thing should stretch beyond March into April,
all right.
We probably have a problem.
Let's take this. Good morning.
Hello. Morning.
Morning. What's your name and where are you joining us from?
Well, I'm John.
So we didn't get your name. What's your name? Okay, John. All right, John, go on.
Yeah, John. Yeah, the fact remains that it's very unfortunate that right from independence, we've all been struggling to get a good leader. Right now, I'm not sure we have a leader that is willingly ready, that is politically ready to assist Nigeria. Nigerians are going through hell. And when you look at things objectively, the leader in question now knows what to do. I wonder why it's taking them such a longer time to act as it, or they are not acting. It's unfortunate. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. It's unfortunate, says it's taking them time to act, and that's one of the pointers that was made by the opposition party, especially when they spoke to the president. They said, "Listen, you're taking too much time. If you don't have any clue on what to do, then you might as well just leave." And then there was a fire back from the presidency where they said, "Okay, if you have ideas, why don't you just give us the ideas? Why don't you drop the ideas?"
Why should I help you to make you better when you said you're better than I am? It's human nature. Am I a fool? Why should I load the gun for you to shoot at me? Because they're going to be election in the next 3 years. So how do I market myself if I've given you, the tools and everything to become fantastic? Then why do you need to change, quote and unquote, the winning team?
A good question. Let's take our final call this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear us? Okay. I mean, it's a good question that you're asking. It is pretty much the same thing that everyone was saying. Why does the opposition need to advise you on what to do? Makes absolutely no sense. If you claim to know, what was needed and what was necessary, then go ahead and get it done.
At least somebody said, Tinubu Asiwaju will face the economy or face the security. I think it's a model, like it's a mafioso model or creed. You keep the people perpetually chained and everything. So by the time you release tokenism, or if you're talking to them, they tend to celebrate you, and you have this perpetual hold on to power. But sometimes it boomerangs, because if dissenting population of voice rise up against you, there's a pool of alliance to join them.
Yeah, and as long as we've been taking, so it's one thing I'm still looking forward to. I really want to hear if anybody feels different, right? Because we've spoken to 3 or 4 people this morning from different parts of the country, and it's pretty much the same narrative that they have. They're complaining. Nobody's happy with where we are currently as a government. Somebody is asking if we have leaders at all. So I really want to know: is there anybody that feels different? It might be a thing that I should put out there.
No, some people will feel different, just like what Patty Tommy said. Some people with access to free money.
Well, maybe yeah. If you are one of those people, if you feel different, so it doesn't sound like the whole of the show is really just lamentations of the Nigerian people. I would like to hear from one person, across the country who feels different, who feels like, no, you people are wrong. We're definitely on the right path. The president knows what he's doing. He has put the right things in place. He has, ended fuel subsidy where they were stealing Nigeria's funds. He has, appointed the right people, technocrats, as they're called in office. I want to know that there's somebody who is excited about where we are today, or buys into the narrative of this is just a
suffer now and
suffer now, exactly.
No, but why we are tightening our belt, they are probably losing that. Losing gas
more, right?
Yeah, and somebody very fond to me, somebody I called my principal, sometimes to tell you that was accused at some point by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo that running a government without human face.
Yeah.
And it responded by coming out with policies that had human face or faces. You see, there's nothing wrong in swallowing your pride when you're wrong. There's nothing wrong in coming out with social intervention program directed at the people. And I'll give them a free advice now. The things they've been asking, and they're making us realize that they don't have what it takes to push us out, forward and pull us out. Something can probably, a single move in my own elementary economics or knowledge of economy and economics. If the federal government now, through a budget environment, comes out and says, okay, for the next 4 months, there's room for subsidy. We're introducing subsidy for 4 months. What brought about the upsurge in the rates, the exchange rates, was removal of subsidy. What brought about the upsurge in the price of PMS and cost of living was removal of subsidy. By the time you introduce it, you probably will not get 140-something naira per litre because of the present value of the dollar. But by the time you introduce it, you probably will get like 240-something naira per litre. And because of that rate and the subsidy, it even has an effect on the exchange rate. It pulls it down.
Yeah, but if it's not going to be maintained, then it feels like
it pulls it down and gives you room to not start thinking of long-term solution. Right, and the funny thing, it calms it down and it even stabilizes your national security. Because any little spark, the protest is spreading.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's starting to come down.
And I'm wondering, and this is why somebody like me, I've been questioning the credentials of No Ribadu. I was excited when I was appointed because it gives me that maybe someday hire as a civilian
we need
become an SA.
Yeah, we need to wrap up. We're totally out of time.
It's a deep conversation that we can't finish up in one sitting. Thank you so much, Public Affairs Analyst D.A. Bisaka, for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. Your people, I'm just a phone call away.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. We look forward to have you again. Coming up next, Nigerians are still worried about what took place or what happened yesterday, and it didn't go Nigeria's way, but then again, it went the way of Ivory Coast. We'll talk about that after this. There you see the action that took place just yesterday night that didn't see the Super Eagles of Nigeria crowned champions of AFCON 2023. It was indeed one game that many Nigerians had high hopes on. They were expecting that Nigeria would play well, but it just seemed that the Super Eagles did not show up. But how are Nigerians taking it? Are they angry? Are they feeling really good? And what possibly went wrong? What is it that the Super Eagles did not do right, especially at the finals? We do have Tunde Koiki, who joins us here live in the studios this morning on a Monday morning to look at the game and how everything panned out. Well, Tunde, first of all, how are you feeling, by the way?
I'm feeling great.
Because I'm seeing a few trolls online. I mean, the Ghanaians have taken...
Ghanaians, South Africans, everybody who has an axe to grind with Nigeria is online coming for us. So it's no surprise.
But anyway, that's all I can go on.
Yeah, I mean, I expected this, and I think we also set ourselves up. But banter is part of the, it's what makes the game fun. If there's no trolling, then it almost, is useless. There has to be rivalry, there has to be trolling, there has to be the banter, and we'll take it because we dished it out well enough. To Ghana, to South Africa, to Cameroon, we gave everybody back to back, and so. Now it's our turn to receive it. That's fine, and it's not biting as much as, we probably.
The honest truth is actually a lot of people are actually giving thanks to God.
Yeah.
Right now, this morning, that Nigeria did not win the Africa Cup of
Nations. Yeah, I saw that also.
Because they believe that the whole of Africa would have been in trouble if Nigeria added a fourth African crown to their already extensive list of achievements.
Yes.
And I agree.
We've taken Jollof, we've taken Amapiano.
We've also taken,
what do you want to take again?
We want want to take Tyler. And water from South Africa. So it would have been amazing if Nigeria won it, because the whole Africa would have been unhappy, because Nigerians would have let everybody have it.
Oh my goodness.
But let's talk sports now. What do you think went wrong yesterday?
Quite a few things, but the most important one is the fact that the Super Eagles of Nigeria chose the wrongest moment to play their worst game in the entire tournament. They did not show up at all. Secondly, Coach Jose Pesero did not make the required in-game adjustments that were needed to ensure that the Super Eagles had some form of control in this game. You need to be able to control not only the ball, but the opposition, to dictate where and when to engage them, to ensure that the battle is fought on your own terms. It's pretty much like boxing. In boxing, there's something called ring generalship. You dictate where and when to engage. You dictate the terms of the fight. You dictate how it's going to go down. You dictate when and when both fighters actually trade blows. And that is what Nigeria didn't do. We didn't have any form of control in that game. And when we scored, it was against the run of play. Now, could we have made in-game adjustments to ensure that the relentless pressure that we faced was stemmed? We didn't do that. So it was like, you know, I like to use historical references at times. This reminded me of 300 Spartans at Thermopylae facing a vast Persian horde. It's a great story, but eventually, the honest truth that a lot of people fail to remember is that the Spartans eventually lost because of the sheer pressure, the overwhelming numbers, and that's what happened last night.
Well, let's bring in Favor Itua, who, of course, is dealing with it right there.
As Favor, have you changed your... Oh, okay. I thought, Favor, did you change your name after that game? Possibly, did you say, je m'appelle... whatever, because I know it was... They knew you were a Nigerian, and they've always seen you give the reports. So I don't know what the conversation was like. Tell us, what was it like after the game?
All right, quick one. Since I was wearing a New Central shirt that has our station on DSTV and Star Times, it was easy for me to switch to Koulibaly. So that was the name I took after the game.
Favor Koulibaly. Okay, that works.
Okay.
That's fine. But generally, tell us what happened. What was the atmosphere like? We did see that the stadium was packed by Ivorians, and very few Nigerians were not there. The vice president was there as well. Let us in on some of the things that Nigerians do not know or did not know before and during the game.
All right, the build-up to that particular game, lots of Nigerians wanted to get tickets for the game, but interestingly, it was, of course, the ticket sellers who decided to hold tickets to Nigerians who wanted to get tickets. Now, it must also be told that the Minister of Sports, his media aide, did not get tickets for that game yesterday. She tried all her best to get tickets into the game. Not like she did not have the money to get the tickets for the game, but it was not possible because, of course, the Ivorians did something unique in the sense that they ensured that everybody that wanted to watch the game that were Ivorians got a ticket. So the tickets for Nigeria were limited. And the question now boils down to how CAF was able to split tickets to host country and the final, the team who is playing, of course, the final against the host country. And this is where I think CAF did not do right. I mean, aside journalists who had to use their accreditation tags, Nigerians who really wanted to watch that game had to cough out at least 400,000 naira to get the lowest ticket.
Wow. 400,000 bucks for the lowest ticket.
It's unfortunately, it's one of the things that happens in African football, even in the Nigerian Professional Football League. At times, when matches are the ticket price for matches, local matches, is probably pegged at 1,000 naira, because they want to limit the number of away fans coming in. They can always jack it to 50,000 naira at times, and there's really nothing you can do. There's a system in American sports that's known as dynamic pricing, whereby when, like, for example, the Chicago Bulls are entertaining maybe the Miami Heat, the prices remain the same. But if you are having like the LA Lakers coming into town, now they can move the prices for maybe what, $40, $50. They can move it to $200, $250. It's allowed.
Oh, wow. I mean, was it the lack of Nigerian fans that distorted our play yesterday, Favor? Are there people who think that Pesero maybe didn't get it right?
Well, it's in two ways. First of all, I don't think it was the Nigerian fans. These players are professionals. They did not bring in their game yesterday. It was a day that they were expected to bring their best game, but apparently they brought in their worst performance. I was able to also ask someone who, at the backroom staff, who did say that Jose Pesero had told the players not to come out. They should start, soaking in the pressure from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. And trust me, you don't defend against the host nation from minute 1 to the end. One thing that didn't work for Nigeria yesterday was trying the same thing and expecting the same different results. Now, before now, Nigeria had played Angola, South Africa, and then the final team, Ivory Coast. One thing was certain, we were red. Angola gave us a tough time. South Africa also exposed some, deficiencies in our team. And I don't think Jose Pesero really worked on that particular thing. He just felt same team has gotten me this far. I should be able to use same tactics and same team to get the final ticket. One thing that has worked for Ivory Coast is the 12th man of the day, which is, of course, the fans. Anytime they equalize, they go on to win the game. You check the game against Mali, you check the game against Senegal, this has always worked for them. And when that goal came in yesterday, trust me, it was a morale booster. Didier Drogba really used his presence to lit up the stadium, and the fans started chanting, started pushing the players to go further. And trust me, we need to also do a lot with ourselves because, of course, Nigeria midfield collapsed. Alex Iwobi is obvious. We need to have another creative midfielder in that particular team. Victor Osimhen was supposed to attack, but he ended up playing defense also through that game. It shows you that Nigeria were lacking in every department on the day. Maybe except the goalkeeping department, who would really try to make some saves to ensure we don't concede more than that. But it was a disappointing night. The players know that they disappointed Nigerians. Jose Pesero also, once again, now made us still have the reality check that he's not the right man for the job because, of course, it was a game of tactics and he did also read the game.
All right. Anyway, Favor Itoa, we know you got back to your hotel very late, the early hours of this morning, and we know you need some refreshments and a good number of hours sleeping. So we'll let you go now, and I'm sure by 1, when the sports team come on live, you would be able to join and give more expose and feedback on what went down there at the AFCON finals. Thank you so much for joining us, Favor. Au revoir.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, cheers.
Merci beaucoup.
Oui. Yeah. Okay, so Tunde, my final question, before I throw it to Osage, do you think we should retain Jose Pesero with all that we've seen at the tournament?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we should keep him. His mandate before this Africa Cup of Nations was to qualify for the semi-final. That was the minimum required of him. He did that. Now, the Nigerian, Nigerian sports administration, especially football administration, has a history of injustice. The likes of Shuabu Ahmadu, who qualified us for 2 FIFA World Cups, was not allowed to take the team there. The likes of Philippe Troussé, who qualified us for the 1998 World Cup, was not allowed to take the team there. There are so many stories of coaches who have been owed money, salaries from God knows how many tournaments. Godwin Izilian, the late Godwin Izilian, who just passed away, was owed salaries or allowances from the African Women's Championship. He won in, I think, 2006. So these are things that we really should shy away from. The man was given a mandate, he met it, he should be allowed to keep his job. I also think that he also showed some kind of improvement from his previous performances. Now, this team, nobody expected this team to get this far. I didn't give them a chance. I said,
but why though? So what is it that makes it, that makes it difficult for us to expect a team to go far? Is it based on what our previous games had been like? Or are we just looking at the quality of players that we generally have, and saying, nah? I
think it's a mixture of both. Coming into this tournament, we didn't have the best of runs. We drew with Lesotho. We drew with Zimbabwe. We also lost to Guinea in a friendly match before this competition. No, that completely dampened or even erased any existing morale. So that is one. 2, the Nigerian fan, average Nigerian fan, likes to see flair players, someone who can dribble 5, 6, new coaches. We don't have that anymore. You cannot cook a goosey soup with ingredients for afang soup. It's not possible. You have to work with what you have in order to get what you want. And that was what Jose Pesero did. He looked at his team, looked at the kind of players that he had in order to create a team that was capable of competing at that level. And that was what happened. So I think by virtue of that alone, he did way above his remit. He has shown that he's capable of making adjustments in order to get the job done. So I think he should keep his job.
Yeah, a couple of those players wouldn't be there with in the next AFCON.
Yeah.
So it's the hope that we're able to bring out, more people from, hopefully from,
Of course, Nigeria has a huge contingent of players
we
in
do.
Europe.
We're
reputed to have the largest number of players from the African continent who are playing in Europe. So we will always find talent. And don't forget, there's also a huge core of players from born in diaspora who
are wanting to come back.
Pledge their allegiance to Nigeria.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping that we do not get to experience the same show of shame with coach being owed salaries again. I would say that it's just lack of shame. We just totally shameless. That's why continuing to do that.
If the coach has stood on his mandate, I'm sure the president will ensure that the NFF stands on their mandate as well.
That's what they always say.
Yeah.
But anyway, congratulations to the Super Eagles. We made it to the finals. Like everyone has said, we didn't expect that we'll go that far. As much as we brag, as much as we have been running our mouths across the continent, I don't think a lot of people expect that we'll go that far. So congratulations to us. And of course to our Ghanaian and South African and Cameroonian and Angolan and African brothers. Just know that it's all banter. We brag a lot. We have the worst mouths on social media, but it's all just banter. It's love from Nigeria to the rest of the continent. Thank you very much, Tunde.
Absolute pleasure.
All right, let's bring to you what's coming up later today here on Breakfast Central. 11 a.m. we've got Business Edge, so you can get the latest stories concerning business, and most importantly, I'm sure Herbert Wigwe's story will also make the rounds.
2 p.m. West African time, Village Square Africa comes your way.
And at 5 p.m. the conversation. What's happening in Nigeria? What's the real story? You'll find out at 5 p.m. From us here, live at the studios, we are indeed excited. We've brought Monday on a start. And we look forward to make it very exciting, especially for the likes of, others who will be joining us in the course of this week's show from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The conversations are indeed rife. Your conversation with Wigwe Nigeria, the monies and the likes. We'll talk about all of that when we come back on the air tomorrow. So do us a favor, stick around, more and more coming your way on News Central. I'm Joe Hansen, by the way.
Absolutely, and thanks to everyone who joined us via phone lines. We, of course, will be seeing you again tomorrow morning. I am Osaogi Ogbonwa. See you tomorrow.